Hey guys, Adam here with yet another video for you today. And I know it's been a long time. I thought I would actually just pull up my phone here real quick and see just how long has been. One circuit, So it looks like the last real video that I put out was Cyborg 2000 Punch-Out Repair 8 months ago. 8 months ago? 8 months ago. And then a few before that, I see Black Dog versus Ron Phillips 11 months ago. Some Ask Adams 10 months ago. It seems like forever since I've done one of those. So yeah, I've been kind of MIA for a while. For that, I apologize. I do appreciate all the emails. I get tons of emails from people, just saying, hey, where have you been? I hope everything's okay with you and your family. Everything's fine. Just work. Work has been, my work schedule is very aggressive, and we've had a lot of cool projects going on at work that I've had to kind of focus a lot of my attention on. Starting in the summertime and kind of just from there on. Work's always been challenging, but in particular there were some key projects that I had to get done. And it was hard. So I'd be working all week long, and then, indoors obviously, and then weekends would be beautiful and sunny outside, and I just could not justify spending those few days that I had down here locked up in the lab doing videos and things like that. So I wanted to get out. I was getting stir crazy. So that explains the whole summer. Fall was kind of like a perfect storm at work. We had like 4 or 5 projects that I was responsible for, or at least partly responsible for, and we had deadlines all within like a week or 2 weeks of each other, and so it was just flat out. I was working, nights and weekends and the whole 9 yards, and just way too busy to put up any content. So that being said, things have kind of settled down a little bit. The weather is not so nice outside. In fact, we're supposed to get hammered with some snow today. So, and I'm off of work for the next 11 days or so. So what better time than to see if I can catch you guys up and throw some content your way. Maybe a sneak peek at pole position. I think some of you people have been asking for that. So actually, I think I checked my email, and I have a package from Clay Cowgill, which is the second pole position prototype. So he has one that he used to kind of get the system up on his legs, get it powered on, and things working correctly, and then he whipped up another one and sent it my way. So I thought what we would do is do a little unboxing, and we can kind of go through the motions. I believe we can give you a little demo real quick, just see it working, and go from there. So let's get started. Actually, you know what? It's going to take me a little while to grab that package. So why don't we do this? You guys can take a look at some video that Clay has put together of him doing the hand assembly of the pole position clone boards. Thought that might be cool for you guys to take a look at. So yeah, you guys look at that. I'll grab the package, and then we'll meet back here.
this is just the X-ray setup if you haven't seen one before. Just a PC with a fancy, these are always encouraging. But inside, you can see that or not, I just got the X-ray head. Maybe I can turn the light on. Come on, camera. Yeah, there we go. That's the X-ray head. Got the board in there underneath it.
Alrighty, so here is our package from Mr. Cowgill. Let's see what we have inside. Let me get rid of this. And go. So you can already see, I actually decided to do this kind of next to the original pole position board stack, so you can kind of get an idea of the size comparison, right? So let's continue to unwrap this guy. And this is kind of what we're calling, right, for lack of a better term, the baseboard. But you can see just how different. And again, pole position is 2 stacks, right? I'm sorry, 2 boards. So 2 of these boards is in one, not even this board, it's just basically in one little chip there. So it's amazing how much you can cram into these things. And also just kind of show you some reference here. I actually have an old 3.5-inch floppy, and so they're pretty much the same size right there. So it just shows you how small these things can get. So let's talk about the hardware a little bit. So this is obviously FPGA driven, right? No surprise there. There's no emulation or anything like that. A lot of people have been asking, basically, just what does that mean, FPGA? What's the technology? How does that all work? And I think I used this analogy on the Arcade Outsiders podcast with John and those guys. And it's an analogy that I like to use because it kind of explains it pretty well. So imagine you're trying to build something out of Legos. Let's say you're trying to building a house out of Legos, right? And so one way to do that would be to just get a piece of paper and draw out what you want your house to look like exactly, and then just go and order each and every brick that you would need to build that house, and then build the house. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it would be to just buy a massive tub of Legos that just has all sorts of kinds of Legos in there. You just dump them on the floor and you build your house, and whatever's left over is left over. And that's essentially how an FPGA works. So if we want to compare this to, let's say the old technology that the guys, back at Atari used long ago, they would sit down, and they would figure out, okay, how do we want to build our house? How do we want to build our game? And in this case, pole position, right? So they would come up with a set of schematics, and I got the schematics over my shoulder here. Tons and tons and tons of logical elements being used, ands and ors and inverters and all those different kinds of gates. Here's one, for example, that we can kind of talk to. This is the CPU sync chain, right? So some guy in designing this, he decided, all right, I would like to have a binary counter here that counts up. I'm going to need a couple inverters in here. I'm going to need a flip-flop. I'm going to need some more inverters and maybe a mux. And these are all logical elements, that I've probably explained before in some of my videos. So this is what they would do. They would draw this out, you know what I mean? Similar to like the analogy I said, drawing out their house. They draw exactly what their schematic, what their design should look like. And then they would go to their trusty TTL data book, which I happen to have right here. And they'd say, all right, for these logical elements, what chips can I grab, off the shelf that have these sort of things? And let me just flip through real quickly if I can. What is this right here? Here we go, quadruple 2-input OR gate. So let's say that there was an OR gate on the schematic. They would say, there's an OR gate. I just need to order a 74 LS32. And they would do that for every single one of these. If you look, that's what we have. We have an LS74 and an LS163 and so on and so forth. So that contrasted with an FPGA, right? So an FPGA is a field programmable gate array. So let's break that down. So field programmable means that you're either in the factory or the thing's out. It's sold and it's in the field. That's the kind of the term they use, in the field. So in the field, you are able to reprogram this device. That's why it's called field programmable. Gate array literally means it's a huge array, just a sea of gates, right? It's like the big tub of Legos. There are all sorts of gates on here, ands and ors and inverters and flops and counters and all sorts of things. And you can decide how you want to use those gates. Not only that, but you can reprogram and redecide how you want to use those gates. So I could configure this to be, in this case, a pole position, but I could also reconfigure it and be a Donkey Kong or a Pac-Man or any, a Commodore 64, anything that is logical in nature that has logic gates. I could configure this to do that. And so that's what makes this such a nice, solution, is that I can create this single board and have it run pole position, yes. But the idea, as Clay and I were working, was, we don't really want to have to do this again. This took a lot of time to do. Clay's a busy man, I'm a busy man, and we just didn't have the time or don't see ourselves having much time to keep doing these one-offs, a one-off for pole position or one-off for another game or whatever. So the idea was kind of make it universal, and that's why we've got this edge connector here, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But the idea is to make this universal so that I can, yes, go ahead and kick off pole position, but then in the future, if I want to do a different game, which I already have a few lined up, then we can go that route. Okay, so some of the features real quick. Like I said, this is just kind of a generic output that we can use to slap on any edge connector that we want. And so what's nice about that is, if we wanted to spin this for pole position, I can create a specific pole position edge connector that we can use, and I just happen to have one right over here. This is actually just for prototyping, but you can see how that lines up here like this. I'm going to make sure I can get it into frame so you guys can see. And then this is configured to just basically plug and play with the pole position board set right up here. And then likewise, if we wanted to do some other kind of a game, like I said, a Donkey Kong or a Pac-Man or something, whatever, then I could just create a small edge connector board, and that way it's more plug and play. I know there's people out there that love the JAMA, and I'll probably do a JAMA edge connector too. But I do like this approach because it allows people who have the original games to just plug in this board and run with it. They don't have to worry about adapter or perhaps rewire their cab to be JAMA. You can just slap this in and it works. So anyway, back to the board. So we obviously have our FPGA sitting over here. Some cool features. This has got a 4-channel sound. And that was specifically for the purposes of pole position and other racing games that have 4 channels of sound, and 2 speakers in the front and 2 in the back, and that kind of thing. We have a microcontroller that can grab everything it needs from the SD card, so no ROMs will be shipped with this board when it's complete. And again, this is a prototype board. The production board may look a little bit different, but ROMs will never be shipped with any of the boards that I ever produce, and that's intentional. For legal reasons, and so all the ROMs, you will be responsible for finding them and of course putting them in the SD card, and then the microcontroller can detect, yep, you got that game, and I'll go ahead and load it up and run it for you. Has a built-in VGA connector. It supports I want to say up to 2 steering controls and a bunch of other controls. There's all sorts of stuff. I'd actually have to look to see, because Clay was able to put in quite a bit of additional controls than what initially I had put in there. So that's awesome. That just allows us to expand into the future. But I think in general that's pretty much it. We've got level converters obviously over here for some of the inputs, because the inputs are actually TTL inputs in some cases, and we want to bring those down to a lower voltage that the FPGA uses. And that's essentially it. With voltage regulators type stuff down here, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. But there's a lot going on here with the family of FPGA that we've selected. It allows us to kind of scale. What's nice about this particular family is that they're pin-to-pin compatible across the family. So if we're working at a very simple game, then that's fine. But if all of a sudden we realize, there's these games that people want, or a hardware platform that people are after, they would like us to do, and it requires more horsepower, that's fine. We can simply drop in an FPGA that's got more capacity, more features, and use the same board, and we're off and running without any respin time or any of that kind of stuff. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much what we're working with today. Again, we might add a few features for the production board, but this is definitely more than enough to get us started. So tell you what, why don't I go ahead and take and populate one of these pole position edge connectors. Again, this is just prototype. It's got JTAG stuff that you guys obviously won't see in the final production run and those kind of things. But yeah, let me populate one of these, and that way we can plug it in here, get it loaded up with the pole position design as it stands today, and then we can talk to, or I can talk about rather, where things are, and then what other features I'm hoping to add this week. Alright, so here's the pole position clone hooked up to all this madness. Let me see if I can explain what's going on. This is a serial port, so I can talk to, or rather the board can talk to me and let me know how it's doing, what it's doing. This allows me to reprogram the microcontroller on the fly, and also kind of debug it on the fly. And this allows me to peek inside the FPGA and control it if I want to, for debugging purposes. So this window over here kind of tells me, well, actually this is my firmware, right, for the microcontroller. You can see here that I'm loading up the file system, and then I'm actually loading pole position Atari version. I have commented out pole position Atari 2, so that's pole position 2 for the Atari. We can enable that and load that one up too. We'll do that in a sec. This is telling me, this is the serial port readout. It's telling me what the board's doing. It's yep, I'm sending all these ROMs to the game here, and then boom, finally the game's running. This is the logic analyzer that allows me to poke into the FPGA and see exactly what's going on internally. This happens to be the Z80 A bunch of Z80 bus stuff going on right here, fetching instructions, executing, and everything, which brings us to this, right? So this is pole position 1 Atari version running on the board. Some things right out of the gate, it looks like the colors are too vibrant to me, like the grass is just too green, and I want to say there should be several shades of red in the tail fin of the car there. And so those are some things I need to look at. I don't know if it's this monitor, because obviously I'm trying to run this this board using an LCD monitor, and there's some weirdness that can happen with that. I'm noticing the colors aren't really rotating all the way through. I should be seeing more yellow in there than red. So anyway, I got to take a look at the color logic and make sure that everything's doing what it should be doing. But yeah, this is it. This is pole position 1 on the Atari. So let me load up pole position 2. You guys can take a quick peek at progress there. So here is pole position 2. This is the Atari version, and things seem to be running fine. You will notice though that there is a point in which the game resets, and it's always at the same spot, which is good. It's not random, which would be very hard to try to figure out. It's always when it moves, it transitions from one phase of the game to the other phase. I want to say it's after the high score table or something like that. So basically the way this hardware works is you've got at least three, not counting all the sound controllers. You've got 3 microprocessors that are all running, that are all trying to play nice because they're all using the same memory and those sort of things. You've got 2 Z8002s and a Z80. And they're all talking to each other. They're all giving each other cues on what to do and things like that. And it doesn't take much to get them, to get screwed up and go off in the weeds. I think you'll probably see it reset in a second here. But anyway, yeah, there you go, right? So it's always at that point, and there's another point, so there's 2 key points. But anyway, those microprocessors are sending each other cues, right? I'm over here, how about you? Are you over there? Yep, I'm over here, continue, and da-da-da. And if one of those gets lost, or if it doesn't respawn in enough time, then the game will reset. But I have a really good handle on how that whole, that handshaking mechanism works, and so it shouldn't be too much to fix that. Again, the colors look a little bit too vibrant here with the ground and the sky and things like that, so that's something to take a look at. So this week, what do I want to work on? I'm going to work on the audio. I'm feeling really confident that it's not going to take much to get that going, because as you saw in the video that John did, a review of this years ago, I want to say, the sound was working, right? And so now it's just getting the sound to line up with the protocol that these audio DACs want to see. So that's one, and then the other is the control. I really would like to get the steering inputs working, right? So, pole position's got the test screen that you can go to, and you can play with the wheel, and you can play with the pedals, and those sort of things. So steering and the pedal, I really want to do those 2 this week, and so yeah, that's my goal this week. And I guess we'll see, right? I got a few days here off, so plenty of time to poke around with this. And yeah, that's my goal. That's my short-term goal here. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for this video. Again, I apologize. It's taken me so long to put something together. But now that I have hardware in hand, hopefully I can send out more content your way. I do occasionally put out unlisted content on my Twitter and also Facebook. So if you want, you can subscribe to me there at One Circuit on Twitter, and just search for One Circuit on Facebook, and you'll find me. But yeah, if I'm working late or whatever and I make a breakthrough, sometimes I'll just put a little blurb out there with a video or something like that to show my incremental progress. So by all means, check me out there if you guys want to follow along. And like I said, hopefully this week I'll be making some progress on the audio and the controls. And if I do, then I will definitely put together a legit video and put that on my channel here, so you guys can be part of that whole progress. So anyway. Happy holidays to you guys. Hope you have an amazing holiday break here. Hopefully you guys can have some time off with your families. But I think that's it for me. I'm going to go get to work and see if I can make some more progress here. So thank you so much for your support, for subscribing and liking and all that kind of stuff. And that's it. God bless you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.